Hello again, friends, and welcome into another edition of Wrestling with Rusty right here on YouTube and Facebook. And I'm coming to you today with some more sad news. It seems like I've been doing a lot of these death notifications for pro wrestlers these days. And I'm sorry to report that just today, August 4th, 2021, or August 3rd, 2021, whichever one you want to believe. I'm not sure whether it happened today or yesterday, but over the last couple of days, technically, Jody Hamilton, the masked assassin, passed away from many health complications. He wrestled most notably as the masked assassin and had various partners: Tom Renesto Jr., Hercules Hernandez, and many others was his tag team partners as the Assassins. Jody Hamilton also, in later years after his wrestling career was over, was in charge of the WCW World Championship Wrestling School called the Power Plant. Then he ran Deep South Wrestling in Georgia. He was the father of referee Nick Patrick, real name Jody Hamilton Jr., or Joe Hamilton Jr. was Nick Patrick's real name. So we send our thoughts and prayers and condolences to the family and friends of pro wrestler Jody Hamilton. Earlier in his career, Jody Hamilton also wrestled as one of the BOLOs in the 1950s and 60s in the NWA and became famous for the BOLO gimmick in the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling territory run by Jim Crockett Promotions in Charlotte, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia at that time. Jody Hamilton was also involved in WCW backstage in terms of booking what we call in the business job talent. He was also in charge of the ring crew, the crew that sets up the ring at WCW events when WCW was in business. So Jody Hamilton had a long career in wrestling, both during his wrestling days and after his wrestling days were over. So again, we send our thoughts and prayers and condolences to the friends and family of Jody Hamilton. Rest in peace. You will be gone, but never forgotten, as the BOLO or the assassin, or father, friend, and many other things. Go be with the rest of the pro wrestling legends up there in heaven, my man. Rest in peace, Jody Hamilton. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this edition of Wrestling with Rusty right here on YouTube and Facebook. Come back next time when we hope to have some better news and talk more wrestling. Let me do my suicide prevention promo in memory of Don Kernodle, who passed away earlier this year. Don Kernodle, world-famous professional wrestler and personal friend of mine, as well as anybody who has committed suicide or attempted to commit suicide, past or present. If you or someone you know is thinking about committing suicide, please have them call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year at 1-800-273-8255, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. And if you don't get help there, get help from somebody that you trust, because the earlier that you start trying to find help and get help, the more likely you are to prevent suicide. And please remember that suicide is never the answer. It's not our job to decide when we go home. It's God's job to decide when we go home, not ours. Suicide is never the answer. Once again, rest in peace, Jody Hamilton. Gone, but not forgotten. We'll see you next time for another edition of Wrestling with Rusty right here on YouTube and Facebook, and hopefully have some better news. And as the voice of Ring of Honor, Ian Riccaboni, would say, happy wrestling, everybody.